Okay, so what I'm going to explain here is the four, at least, there's at least four words for xu'u. Why are there four different words for xu'u, specifically other than xu'u, also po, how, and peu? And, before we explain why there's four words for xu'u, we have to explain, wait, what is xu'u? Okay, well, usually the explanation is that xu'u is the equivalent of lo suhu, which is a terrible explanation because it's both not fully equivalent. The terminator of xu'u is kuhau, and whereas the terminator of lo suhu is two different terminators because it's two different constructs, so it's k and then ku. But so they're not exactly equivalent. Also, nobody knows what suhu means either. Suhu isn't basic and taught in the fundamental historical Lojban texts, even though it is a traditional word. What suhu is the general word of which words like nu, ka, liho, not liho, lihi, lihi, siho, what is it, do something, other ones, duhu. These are all right. I probably covered that's not quite in order of importance. Nu, ka, duhu, siho, and lihi, and others. But most importantly, I would say in order of importance, roughly, nu and ka pretty much even, is these are ways of taking a sentence and making them into a verb. These go sentence to verb. So if we have these are the five different things that we've ended up wanting to often make a verb out of a sentence. And what does so we use nu, we take a sentence inside. So the sentence is whatever, show something happening. Should I have an unexpected klama lozarshi, going the event of going to the market? Nu mi klama lozarshi. And there's an optional terminator k, which you'll rarely need, and note that it terminating that makes this is a verb. The whole thing is a verb. Nu mi klama lozarshi, k, is a verb, and then it will form a tanru with another thing. If there's another thing here, then that's it. It forms a tanru with it. It will form tanru with another event, and then you can make a bunch of events with stuff in them, and they'll all form a big tanru. And then people will be like, "Why are your tanrus so long, Manga Jelly?" In my experience, that's just my personal experience. Okay, ka is another one that we can use. So nu. This is the inside of the nu. We might have a cow, and sometimes to center to focus something in the nu, but mostly this is a verb that's going to mean the x1 is the thing happening, is the thing that happened, or it's the thing that happens, or is going to happen, or is the event that we're talking about. It's an event. And so, but then with ka, we take a whole sentence like Klama Lazar, she go to the market, right? But ka, what we have is we're making is a property. That means x1 is the property of being doing, and then here we're going to describe the thing being doing. And so we want to have inside this property, we want to have the thing that has the property, which we can tag with shehu, or controversially still she. Sometimes people say she. So but the shehu is the thing. In this case, it's the goer to the market is the thing that has the property. And if you don't specify, then it's just if you just say kaklamalo zarshi, then it would go by default here. So you don't need to say that's default. Say you don't need to say ka shehu klamalo zarshi. You rarely need to say ka shehu because you would need to say it almost all the time. So because you would need to say it so much, it's so much the implied that shehu is there. Shehu is just a noun, but it's a noun that means that in the thing that in this, like, it refers to the grammatical context and creates so it's like it's a very grammatical feeling noun, but just acts nouny. So like any noun, Lojban is so pro drop that even though this noun shehu is a grammar noun that just is the place of something, you can still leave it off, and then we'll just assume where there's a shehu, it seems like it would be here. Ka klamalo zarshi, it seems like the shehu is going to be there. And if you want to, if you wanted the shehu here, like ka klamalo zarshi shehu is the quality of having a market be gone to from you. It's very easy to say these things in Lojban, and very hard in English. The ka klamalo zarshi fo shehu is the quality of having the quality of being a route by which a market is gone to by someone. Just saying that in Lojban, it's like, yeah, you put the shehu there, and in English, it's like, what? So, properties. That's it. So you want to make a whole sentence. If you want to talk about a property, you want to describe something, you want to make like property is like, we understand it as like, we're all programmers and the way we understand properties is not really by reference to logic as much as by reference to math and programming, and we think of them as lambda functions, which just means it's a thing that like ka klamalo zarshi is a thing that gives you that the thing that goes in it is a goer to the market. So it's a thing with a slot in it for a goer to the market, and then other things can relate to that by like using the slot, and then the slot will the slot that this has, and it will match up. And you don't like need to know about programming to understand it. It's just that's how we happen to understand it. Duhu makes a proposition. So you take a sentence in here like mi klamalo zarshi, I go to the market, and then duhu mi klamalo zarshi it's actually a verb with where's my dictionary? Duhu actually has two places. I believe it's just two, right? Duhu is the first thing is it says the predication. It's the meaning, the what this means, like the very direct level of meaning of it means that these words in this relation, right? But like the basic level of interpreting it into an abstraction that's not a textual abstraction. that's abstract, as in it's abstractly what these words point to. Zarshi points to it can point to markets, but it also points to just like in like an abstract idea of the graph of the sentence. It points to a Zarshi node in that abstract graph. It points to like abstractly that saying Zarshi. I don't know if that explains it. But anyway, duhu miklamalo zarshi is the proposition. The fact that I go to the market is the x1, and it makes x1 is a fact. Is the fact that whatever expressed in expression. So this and this is just like this explains to you what kind of thing a duhu produces. It produces this sort of thing that you can express it in various expressions. There's various textual expressions you could make that would be expressions of exactly the same thing produced by the duhu. This abstract thing that's like not what the text refers to as in what it finally refers to, but the abstract like understanding of, oh, these semantic things connected in this grammatical way, which which will then refer from there. It's a midpoint in the process of referring, where first it's just text, then it becomes in your mind an abstract meaning of the text, as in what how it goes together, and then that has a meaning as in meaning something out into the world. But yeah, so all right, do and siho is someone's idea of something. We use this. It turns out you can have the idea of going to the market, and siho will give you 3 places, I believe, right? No, just 2. Siho x1 is x2's concept of. So with siho miklamalo zarshi, it's x1 is x2's idea of that going to the market. So this is someone's idea of going to the market. And you can say, if you use it in a sentence, you can say whose idea it is. You can say, lo siho miklama lo zarshi ke be mi. So we've got the siho ke, this makes a verb, and then we can just do normal stuff to it, like use a lo on it to make it into a noun, and then in that context we can say be to put a if it's the main verb in the sentence. If we just have a sentence, we can say siho miklama lo zarshike mi, and this just puts it into, or fe mi, that just puts it into there, right? Or and then fa koha, if this is the x1 is the idea. All right, so that's just a normal verb. You can use it in a sentence, but that's a weird sentence. Sometimes that happens. Here's a sentence where we use it. Lo melbi ko lihi jadi. It's a funny sentence to understand. The main verb is lihi. Oh, we should do lihi. Lihi is the least commonly used of these 5 most common ones, but lihi gives someone's experience of something. So like lihi, that's all you get, right? Yeah, to the participant or observer. A lihi gives you an experience and who experienced it. So lihi miklama lo zarshi is the experience is x1 is x2's experience. So this would be the experience of going to the market. And this, so you could say you can make it as the main verb in a sentence, lihi klama lo zarshike mi. That means something is my experience of going to the market, or lo chamgu, a beneficial, and you need the shu, because lihi will form a tanur with chamgu, and which could be cool. That could be cool. You could say chamgu lihi klamalo zarshi, good beneficial experience of going to the market. That's a nice tanur, pretty sentence. So but this, in this sentence, it doesn't form a tanur because of the ko, which makes it a very pretty shape of sentence. And this is really, x1 is lo melbi, a beautiful, ko, you, but imperative, like it could be a gentle imperative, like a suggestion, you, and then lihi jedi is the verb. So you have a beautiful experience of today, of the day, of a day. Have a beautiful day. So those are all of those are things that take, where you start with a sentence and then you make a verb that produces a thing from the verb produces more. Some of them produce more than one thing, but all of them produce at least the first thing they produce is we call them abstractions. But that's not. But they're not. Like a new is not an abstract thing. It is it is an event. It's a happening in the world. It's the least abstract thing there is. Ka does produce a fairly abstract thing. It produces a lambda function. Duhu produces something abstract, a proposition. As I said, it's the first level of abstraction before you get to the abstraction of meaning. Siho produces Is that abstract? Well, I mean, it produces an idea, whatever that means. I'm not sure we've clarified what it means. And as I said, we use it mostly for it's most often used for definitions. That made sense to people that the meaning of something is an idea, right? Aren't meanings ideas? I guess that makes sense. And lihi produces experiences, which we just use in a few random places, sometimes places. So, but experience, I think, is that, and that's fairly concrete, isn't it? Yeah, an experience is just a thing in the world. So, but that's so whether it's abstract isn't. What they are is I thought of the term interactional, which is just random word I thought of. Think of a better word than that. What they are is they're these particular sorts of Lojban things where you can take a sentence and you get out of the sentence like a thing. And the xu'u is these are all traditionally, I didn't make this up. This is the traditional idea, is that xu'u is the generic. In Lojban we have generics for everything. They're called ohevla. That's the Lojban term for a generic word. Ohevla is not an ohevla because it refers specifically to ohevla. But ohevla are words that are vague. Like shohe is the vague verb. It just means to something. And the vague noun is zohe. You can use these and they're cool, and we do use them sometimes, but the reason we don't use them all the time is because they're implied. If there's no verb, if you just say like mi lozarshi, then the implied verb is shushohe, which is the vague verb. This is the ohevla for a verb, and just means something, do something, are in some relation. Or and so if you say mi klama lo zarshi, there is implied three more zohe, because you're saying I go to the market from somewhere, by somewhere, in something. So so there's zohe implied all over the place, but we only say them when we just want to for the grammar. Like you can say mi klama lo zdani, I go from the house, or you can say miklama zohelo zdani, I go to something unspecified, or something. The ohevla, the vague words, are also mean like you can probably guess this from context, or it doesn't matter. It means I'm not saying. Which can sometimes mean you could guess which thing I mean, right? And sometimes means you don't need to know which thing, so I'm not saying. So, but the ohevla just don't say, and you get an ohevla for like everything. The ohevla for emotion, for the emotion words, for the we words. The ohevla, we means I'm happy, and ye means I'm scared, and ohu means I feel relaxed about that. But the vague one is gehe, and if you say gehe, you're just not saying how you feel. Which the main reason that in practice to say gehe is if you want to attach something to it. Like if you want to say gehe roho. I'm not going to say which emotion, but it's some emotion that I'm feeling on a physical level. Which you still don't need the gehe. Like if you want to say mi klama roho lo zarshi, you don't need the gehe there. To say I feel on a physical level rojo. So you still don't say the gehe, but the reason you'd say it is if you want to say we, and you don't want the rojo to be attached to the we, you don't want to say physical happiness. You want to say I feel happy and something else that's physical. We gehe rojo. That's the only time you like need gehe, but there's gehe, and there's all of the vegas. There's the vegas there's the ohevla for everything. And if there isn't, we will make you one. If you notice a lack of no ohevla, someone will make you one. So, so since this is like a kind of word, like the we is also all different things. Like it can, there's all different kinds of attitudinals, and gehe is vague over all of them, which is very, very vague, very not specific. And xu'u is a similar kind of, it's very not specific, because it could be a physical event. The x1 of xu'u, you put a sentence in here in the xu'u, mi clama lo zarshi. And xu'u mi clama lo zarshi could be a physical event of going to a market. It could be a property, a going to the market property. It's not, since you didn't say any property slot, it's not clear exactly what the property would be, but I mean, maybe the slot's here or something, and maybe it would be clear from context. It could be just the proposition, just the fact of me going, going a market, them being connected. It could be an idea. It could be an idea of me going to a market, or it could be an experience that someone had of going to a market. I could be talking about an experience, which, in an English perspective, this is 5 unrelated things. But the existence of xu'u and the fact that it makes things more convenient and smoother in general, and just because because of the way I was thinking and feeling about Lojban, xu'u just sat there for a long time, just meaning that, just because we had a hevla for everything, so we had xu'u. But then I started to actually use it, like say lo xu'u. So the reason why I felt frustrated enough to start saying lo xu'u actually is because we had a situation where people were starting to think about, they had split these out into like 5 different categories, and they were starting to think in those categories and to actually like, before it had just been sort of vague, and like English like lets stuff slip around, and so we were sort of letting slip around in the same way. And then we started to think like, wait, are these different specific categories, like event versus property versus whatever, and what specifically is the second place of jisha, sometimes described as the jisha2? What's the jisha2? What is, if you say lo se jisha, what do you get? An event or a property? And so if I say mi, should I say mi jisha lo nu mi klama lo zarshi, or should I say mi jisha, should I say mi jisha lo ka shehu klama lo zarshi? Which, I mean, you can leave the shehu out, but should it have a shehu for where I want to be and the desires? And people were like debating this, like, well, I don't think it should be a property. I don't think a J2 should be a property, because they were debating this in English. They were like, I don't think it should be a property because, like, what if I want like the new the panpi fanmo. What if I want like something that I'm not even gonna be there? I'm not even. It's not even gonna be like a property that I'm an observer of it. I don't even want to be the observer, but I just want the event, and without. So I think it should be that you want an event, because then I could, and it's not, and people argued about that a little, decided for themselves how they wanted to use jisha, and then just kept talking. And nothing, and of course it's not a problem. Like, if some people use nu and some people use ka in jisha, that's not a practical problem. And the question is it a problem that we as Lojbanists care about, even though it's not a practical problem? And like, should we care for some philosophical reason or for some practical reason that's not like immediately conversationally practical, but practical on a level of what it is like to think and live in the language, you know? So I made some words. These are not like conversational words. I made some words that are just like they're words for thinking about thinking about the situation, which these are specific words. Jishanu is like mi jisha lonu. You would say mi jishanu lonu klama lo zarshi, and you would say imi jishaka lo ka klama lo zarshi. And so I made those words to start to be like, okay, wait, what's should Jisha be only one or the other of these? And is it really malrelsmu? Is it really pessimus in a bad way? If these if Jisha could mean either Jishanu or Jishaka, is that malrelsmu for it to possibly be either of those? And I started to take the position that it's not, that it doesn't matter, just like it doesn't seem to matter. That if, and a way of, to express that formally in terms of it being okay, more formally, like you can say it's okay practically, because obviously it's just whether someone says nu or ka sometimes, and it doesn't matter. But to express formally why it doesn't matter, you can say Jisha takes a xu'u. Jisha takes this level. It takes the xu'u level and uses this Lojbani concept of an abstraction, as we call it, but as a thing that's it's just got this property that Jisha can grab onto with its. It could be an experience, a property, or an event, or whatever, or a proposition, but it's got this property of having inside of it a relationship of things that such that we can talk about it in ways like saying you could want that relationship to be a relationship of things, for things to be related in that way. So we can, Jisha can, rather than Jisha penetrating through the xu'u and being like, which one of these is it? Because I want one in specific. It penetrating through and being like, which one is it? Because I'll take all of them. I'm malrelsmu. I don't care if it's an idea or an event. Woo! Right? The reason why it's not malrelsmu like that is because it doesn't look at which sort of abstraction, so-called, we're talking about. It only pierces to the level of xu'u and says, well, okay, that's just, it's some sort of relationship of me, klama, and lazarshi. All right, that's, and you desire that. So that's sort of, that's so then you just the xu'u leaves the discussion. Now, right now, I'm bothering to explain to you all of these different kinds of abstraction and their history and context, and I'm bothering to say them lately. But before, at a certain point, I didn't feel like it. And then, so I started to say lo xu'u. Mi jisha lo xu'u klama lo zarshi. And you can go back and listen to old videos where I talk. You can totally talk in a style where you use lo xu'u, which, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I totally talked that way in a bunch of videos where I was playing Minecraft, and you can watch those, and they make sense. But then also, there is a different word, which is not the same grammar as lo xu'u, but produces the same thing. From, you start from a sentence, klama lo zarshi, and then you wrap it in xu'u, ku'au, xu'u klama lo zarshi, ku'au, with the ku'au, of course, usually being a liable. And then there's no lo involved. This is a grammar that goes directly from a sentence to a noun. So it just goes mi jisha xu'u klama lo zarshi. The grammar that xu'u is in is called lohoi. Lohoi is less used, but is less used. There's nobody whose style is to use lohoi, but at the moment. But there's no reason it shouldn't. You could use a Lojban style, and maybe you should start to. Now that I'm explaining it to you right now, this will be the moment when you start to use Lojban, and someone will use a Lojban style, maybe. But Lojban, we've got inside the sentence, we've got a xu'u. Inside the sentence between the Lojban and the xu'u, we get a sentence, and in that we get to tag something like with a keha. So the keha, oi tends to go with keha, sometimes abbreviated as ki. In Chiquitao, the ki is for substituting ki for keha, but some people don't like that because ki is an old word that means make this time sticky because I'm telling a story, and it gives you a different way of relating to time tenses, which is cool. If you want that old sense without being confusing about how people stole it for keha, then I use kihihi, which is not, I don't think kihihi is too long for the old meaning of ki, because you don't like use it constantly. Like if you're telling a story, you can say kihihi and spare a couple of syllables for telling your story. It's not like you're saying watch out, move fast. You're relaxing and telling a story. So I feel like it's okay to say kihihi. But some people are mad that ki got stolen for keha. So, but there you go, the whole history of ki and keha. Keha usually goes with oi things like loihi, which is the new, which is people substitute boy for it. Wait, not loihi. Wait, what do I mean? Voy is people substitute voy for it so much I forget which thing they substitute voy for. There's an old meaning of voy that's very funny, and then voy takes a keha and makes a verb that goes to the thing that is the keha, which is Lojban is almost as Lojban is the, might make sense that Lojban is the name of the category because Lojban is the simplest. Lojban just gives you this thing, as the noun is just this thing. So in this Lojban keha kalamalo, or then the whole thing is a noun that refers to a goer to the market. So that is the same as saying lo kalama velozarshi. So that's why you don't need Lojban, and nobody says Lojban. But Lojban is the grammar category that xu'u is in. Xu'u also, Lojban goes from a sentence and produces a noun, the noun being the thing that's the keha in the sentence inside the Lojban. Xu'u goes from a sentence to a noun, the noun being an abstraction of some sort. One of them interactional complicated Lojban, the interactional complicated so-called abstraction Lojban type. It goes to that thing and makes, one of them complicated things about where the sentence is what happens in that relation. So so that's great. There's no problem with that, and we just use xu'u until the end of time. Would be nice to be able to say. But instead, I'm going to get a drink of water and then keep explaining. So I was sick of saying lo suhu all the time, and xu'u was a thing that had existed for a while at the time. It wasn't in anybody's style, but I decided to make it my style, and I started to be like, okay, well, I'm gonna say xu'u, then this is gonna work great. It's just this one simple word that gets me where I don't want to have to worry about whether after I say mijisha, people have different opinions about whether I say lo nu or no ka next. I have no interest in that. I don't want to say olaf lo suhu. Apparently xu'u works, so people say there's xu'u. I'm gonna try that. Mijish xu'u klam lo zarshi. And then I tried that for a while, and you can also find some old videos where I tried that, I think. But then sometimes you want to say something like, sometimes I'd want to say something like, going to the market, was difficult was annoying. I klamlo and so even sometimes having to say I just by now I can say it with much practice with but it's just I was just not into it. I I described it as going cuckoo. Or I mean that's just an example sentence, but I was really coming upon sentences with in them and not I was like no. So this is in a context where lots of people were saying "she" for shahu, "ki" for kaha, "tau" is tuha, and etc. At the time, "do" was often used for "duhu." You don't see some of these so much anymore, but at the time this was very much the style. Everyone was doing that. That's how everyone's talking. And I was like, well, is there a short form for hoo because I just had enough of saying hoo. And I looked in a document and it said po is what was for hoo and nay for kuhau. I was like, all right, fine. Po nay. All right, that's great. Wait. Ipo proclama los archishunandu shufanza. Awesome. That's great. I'm happy. Ipo proclama los archishunandu shufanza. That's fine. I can say po any number po. I can say it any number of times and I'm happy. Apparently that's what we do now. Whatever. And then I was frustrated. I was feeling frustrated. I had other things to do, so I just made a picture explaining that was. I said I had it has a picture of a pony, and it says and the pony I named using po and nay jboponei, and I which just confused people that there's a name for it. That's just a name for using these two substitutions. It's within Chiquitao. We call these substitutions Chiquitao, and this is within Chiquitao. It's just these two substitutions. I called that jboponei. Talking with those two substitutions is called jboponei, which is not like the name of like a different language or dialect. It's a name for using those two words. And I made a little thing that said like potable for los jboponei sampur freely. And I made a little speech bubble. To speak in Lojban is easy. And I made a little speech bubble where a pony, I found like a random pony clip art, and the pony was saying to talk in Lojban is easy, and it's named jboponei, like pony. That's why there's also jbopoteito, which is also a pun name. It doesn't have anything to do with toe, but it uses te instead of nay for kuhau. So that's the lesser used style. It's not a dialect. It just has te, which is otherwise very, very rarely used. I have no idea what te means otherwise. So it's just a style where you terminate the things with te. Okay, so now we've covered we've covered huhu and po, which was a substitution for huhu that someone, I don't know who, just put it in a list. It's like a proposal, and it's not really their fault. It's more my fault for making a cute picture of a pony that totally convinced a bunch of people. I wasn't around, but when I came back a couple months later, I was like, hey, what's up? And everybody was speaking with po, so it caught on. But then it caught on, and then it became contentious because some people were like, I was using the old meaning of po. The thing about the old meaning of po is that what does this say for po? Which is specific to normal, possessive, physical, legal. Which, okay, there was, at first, what happened was there was two different understandings of po. That it was there was an understanding where po was, there was an understanding of po where it was, just the legal idea of possession, which is helped along by how there it's like the first two letters of ponce, which means to legally possess, but also it was sort of like there's a whole sequence pe, po, pohe, and people were also making a different understanding of it, where like pe means associated with, but po means uniquely associated with, and pohe means associated with in a way that cannot be alienated. And so people who believed that understanding would explain to people who thought that po was legal possession. They would be like, no, man, you're being totally Mowgli. That's totally Mowgli. Mowgli is a like swear insult that means too much like English. No way, man, that's totally Mowgli. You're being Mowgli. And they would be talking in English, except for the word Mowgli, or maybe at the time it was still Mowglisho. At first people said Mowglisho, and then they shortened it to Mowgli, which you can do. You can say Glee for Glisho, but they didn't at first. They just didn't know the Rossi Glee, I think. I think that's what happened. So at first they said Mowglisho, and then they started saying Mowgli, and people would be like, no way, saying po means is legal possession is Mowgli, but which it isn't really. It's not especially. It could be po from ponce and just totally mean that, and there's nothing especially Mowgli about that. But historically, since there was that fight about it, it got to be that people are just like, whatever. People fight about po, and they just developed styles that just didn't include po, which is why later it was like, all right, here's a word people don't really use, po. But then more recently, some people decided like, hey, doesn't po just mean legal possession? I want to use po. I thought that's what po means. It says that in the dictionary. It says that right here in the dictionary. Normal. It says normal. So to attempt to not attempt to not conflict with those, there were just a few people who weren't very fluent who were saying that, but and to attempt to not conflict with them, and without going cuckoo, I thought of saying pohau. And you will also find old videos of me playing Minecraft and saying pohau, which totally works. There's nothing wrong with that. Like mijisha pohau klamalo zarshi, it's fine. I pohau klama lo zarshi shuz dile mi shuhamgu. That going to the market is fun for me, is beneficial. Pohau klama lo zarshi shuz dile mi shuhamgu. Nothing wrong with that. Pohau works fine. I was fine. I felt fine with pohau. But the thing is, nobody, literally nobody, like nobody, the people who were like, you're conflicting with my usage of po, they didn't really do that much. They weren't really around that much, and nobody thanked me for saying pohau ever. If you want to thank me for trying out pohau to try to not conflict with your usage of po for possessive or whatever, then feel free to be the first one to thank me. But I tried that out and nobody really used it. And so pohau still exists in my answer. Nobody's bothered to enter it into the dictionary. Feel free to do that too. Feel free to enter that into the dictionary. But I feel that exists. It's in those old videos, and I just used it in a story, which is right here, that I'm just going to publish soon because I ended up not to finish. I had ideas for how to continue it, but now I don't feel like I have the momentum to do those ideas, so I just finished it by just making it vague and short. So, but that has a character in it that says pohau. So that's a literary usage of it. But more recently, something has happened in Lojban is there's the sound ew, which the word ew means this thing tagged with "au" feels good. Which the way to use that before used to be to say "oi," which means that thing tagged hurts, and then say "nai," "oi nai," which is, and then those two words added up together to meaning that it feels good, which that's silly. So then, since there's long been the idea of putting the sound "ow," since we have "ow," and I don't, there's no reason not to have "ow," but so there's long been the idea of having "ow," and then more recently we started actually saying "ow" for that feels good, and then that was pretty much the only "ow" word for a long while. I use some other "ow" words that this is pretty much just my usage of "ow." I started, this is like unintentional. I started saying "geo" for "jehu." It just sort of, I just started saying it without like meaning to, and it just sort of made sense to me. Also, I started saying "shao" for juho shuhi, for maybe, for like juho shuhi has always felt like a lot for me for maybe. So I started to say "shao" for that. Also, I started to say "do" for doha, just a little bit. That's happened some. And there's a zillion more of them free if you would like to use any of them for something. There's a bunch of short "ow" words available. But I thought, since, so I can't really do hoo. Po is contentious, even though this is the most popular. If you want to speak in a style where you don't always distinguish which specific kind of so-called abstraction, then jboponei is the most popular, perhaps because of the cute pony. That really kicked it off. How is very obscure, but it's just a different word for po. If you don't mind how long it is, and what you mind is two different H-like sounds in the same word, then how is an option. And then I just added the option po, which it doesn't conflict because it's this new sound. But also, I mean, it's unlikely to be popular with the sort of people who don't like po, because po is because the original meaning of po. There, if you're like, if you're like, I like the original and I like things to be the original way they were, then "eo" is also new. So I don't I don't know if "po" has an itch really. I don't know if it makes sense. But I've been trying out "eo" words. And since I'm trying out "eo" words, and "po" would doesn't conflict with the doesn't conflict with any old word. There is no old "po," and there's no, and it's short, and it sounds kind of like "po," which is what people are used to now. So it's a it's the sort of consensus that means it that means nobody likes it, because it's in the middle, in between what everybody likes. People mostly like to use "po" and speak jboponei, or they like to bother to split out the different things every time and always say which one they're putting. So those are the two common styles, and but I'm starting out. I'm using a style with "po," and I sure speak Lojban a lot. So you might need to know that just to understand me. Try it out with me. Try out my words. Try out "show" and "po." I think they sound cool. Okay, so I think I have accomplished my goal that I set out, which was to explain what are all of the words for hoo. Why is there, what even is hoo? Why are there so many words for it? Where did they all come from? Where are they going to? I if there's, I might have missed other words for who knows, but there's at least some of them and some of the history and some of what's going on. I hope that gets you up to date. And you've got lots of style options. You've got lots of Lojban. It's such a poetic language with all different, these, you have got to choose what fits not just like history and aesthetics, but also the syllable count of the song you're writing or whatever. So there you go. There's some options for how to say xu'u.